What are your greatest challenges at this time?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're common to what other people's greatest challenges are. You know, we have certainly had financial challenges over the last 3 years. Aid was flat 2 years ago, minus millions of dollars last year, and then the governor's projected budget this year, or his proposal, is for us another minus $2.5 million. So for us, over 3 years, if the governor's budget proposal goes through as it is, we would have lost about $6 million of aid, or what it calculates to our school district at about minus 23%.
What is your overall budget about, John?
Right around $89 million.
Okay, so if you have an $89 million budget and you take away $6 million, you have a problem.
Correct. We, I think most districts over the, again, this is not new to this year. As you know, this has been a long, deep, serious recession for everyone. Most districts have worked very hard to collapse positions, find efficiencies, and go out with levies that we, hope our communities can support. And I think 94% of the budgets across the state passed last year. I know our levy was right around 1.25% after all the reductions and efficiencies that we've tried to find over the last 2 years. But after about 3 years of that, you start to run out of there's a limit to efficiencies, and eventually get to the point where you're going to start to lose real, what I would identify as core mission programs that you need for your kids to make sure that your graduation rate stays where it is or increases or improves. Our challenge now is we have Race to the Top initiatives, Regents Reform initiatives, and so it's not just staying where we are, it's meeting those new standards, but doing it while losing significant resources. So far, we've been able to find ways to stay the course, but it is certainly becoming more and more difficult.
I as a politician, I don't like to say anything pejorative about my constituents, but I do think the general public is not aware enough about what you have gone through and really the cuts that you've made, very substantial cuts, because the cry is our school taxes are too high, our school taxes are too high. I never leave a conversation with you, John, without having great empathy for you, because I know literally the pain you have personally gone through in making these cuts. But could you identify just a couple of the more what I'll call serious things you have done to work on your budget and to really just keep the schools going?
Well, we've done things. Obviously, you look at efficiencies first, where it doesn't hurt kids or programs. So we've done some things with energy use. We've cut back on certain transportation things that we used to do. Field trips are reduced, unfortunately. But you always try to protect the core mission, which is really about achievement and results for the kids. So we have lost some teachers through cuts and sometimes through attrition, if you're able to do that. We've collapsed administrative positions. I think you would find that the steps we've taken would be fairly common to what other schools have taken across the state.
Yeah, it's not plush, and there's not a lot of money. And on one side we have this great talent that we see. I down here, we're in the Capitol today, and the North Colonie Orchestra was here today, and with their select choir, and the talent you see there, and the real support that the general public and your constituents, my constituents, have for the school districts, and on the other side, the question of the property taxes.
Sure.
And so let's talk about something that's really a very prevalent issue today, and that's the property tax cap. And could you explain to us if, in fact, the governor's proposal for a 2% tax cap, property tax cap went into the effect, what are some of the ramifications of that?
Well, there's a few pieces to this. First, you know, we certainly, I know schools have worked hard to contain or reduce tax levies over the last few years. We worked very hard at that. It's very difficult to do that when the state's part of supporting public schools is diminishing. So their commitment, I guess I would say, to supporting public education or public schools is has decreased significantly. To have that trend continue, so the revenue side from the state is diminishing, and you're going to put a cap on the other end at the same time, puts us certainly in a very difficult position. So not that the state level or the state support is even staying flat. It's not. It's diminishing and going away.
Yeah, you're being proposed this year $2.5 million less from state aid. So here's your budget. The state, Bob Reilly, I might say, is cutting you $2.5 million. All right. There are certain costs, whether they might be personnel costs in a built-in contract, or the price. How many buses do you have, John? About
probably 80 buses.
So you have 80 buses that you're running 5 days a week. Running those costs what in gasoline alone?
Sure. And
those costs are going up. The cost of oil. There's just always a natural inflation on those things.
We are working, you know, hard to control those costs. We are sharing transportation services, doing cooperative bidding, trying to reduce costs. We have been successful to some degree, but when you go back to a tax cap, I think most schools have been underneath what the governor would have proposed at this point, but that's because we have worked very hard the last few years to make cuts, find efficiencies. But I think to go forward, there would have to be a level of dependable, predictable state support for schools. And that just hasn't been there the last few years because of mid-year aid cuts, reductions in state aid by the millions year after year. And it puts boards and certainly superintendents in a difficult position when you cannot predict thoughtfully what your revenue or your state support will be year after year.
Well, a problem, John, also, I could say this on a personal level, but I think I'm correct. You, as superintendent, have to put so much effort in just keeping the enterprise solvent when your major, or in a way, your overwhelming focus should be the quality of education.